In this class, we're going to learn how to solve quadratic equation using the factorization method. Okay, let's start with the first question. We have to solve for the value of x in this quadratic equation. X squared plus 7x minus 30 equals to 0. Okay? Now, how do we find the value of x? In this quadratic equation, the value of a is unity. You understand? Don't forget that in our previous class, I told you that the typical representation of the quadratic equation is this: ax squared plus bx plus c equals to 0. You understand? Now, looking at this quadratic equation, a is what? A is 1, which implies that a is unity. So all we have to do is that we have to think of two numbers such that the product of the two numbers will be equals to our constant term in the quadratic equation. You understand? The constant term is c. You understand? The constant term is c, and c in this quadratic equation is what? Negative 30. You understand? This is c, and this is b. Okay, so think of two numbers such that when you take the product of these two numbers, you are going to have negative 30. And if you add these two numbers together, you are going to get plus 7, which is b. What are those two numbers? Those two numbers are what? Negative 10 and plus 3. Let us check this out. Negative 10 and plus 3. Now, let us first take the product. The product is what? Negative 10 multiplied by 3. That is what? Negative 30, which is correct. Now, negative 10 plus 3, that will be what? That is, negative 10 plus 3, that is negative 7, which implies that we are not going to use negative 10 and 3, okay? Let's try another number, 3 and negative 10, okay? 3 and negative 10, okay? Let's take the product of 3 and negative 10. 3 multiplied by negative 10 is what? Negative 30, okay? 3 plus negative 10, that will be what? 3 minus 10. That will give us negative 7. So this is not correct. This is also not correct. Okay? I know the number. You understand? I just want you to understand. That's why I use this long way. You must think of that number such that when you take their product, it must give us c, which is the constant term in the quadratic equation. And when you add these two numbers together, you must get b. And b is what? 7. When we add these two numbers together, we got negative 7 here. We still got negative 7 here. So we have to try another number. Here, I'm going to change the sign now. Okay, I'm going to change the sign. Here, I'm going to have, let us try negative 3 and 10. You understand? Okay, let's take the product first. 10 multiplied by negative 3. That is what? Negative 30. You understand? Negative 30. And 10 plus negative 3. That is what? Okay, let me just take it step by step. 10 minus 3 equals to what? 7. You understand? So you can see that the two numbers that will give us what we want is what? Negative 3 and 10. You understand? So you must be very, very vast with this. You can see that by the time I take the product of negative 10 and 3, I actually got negative 30. But when I sum it together, it doesn't give me plus 7. Hence, I'm not going to use it. You understand? Those two numbers, their product must give us the constant term, and their sum must give us the second term, which is b. In this case, it is what? Positive 7. So the numbers are what? Negative 3 and 10. Now, having gotten to this point, the next step is that I'm going to replace the second term in this quadratic equation by the sum of these two numbers. Just pay attention, okay? You're going to understand. The quadratic equation is what? X squared plus, now instead of 7, I'm going to replace 7 as what? 10 plus negative 3. You understand? So here, I'm going to have 10 plus negative 3 minus 30. Okay, there is x. Okay, please pay attention. Okay, please. You see, there is x at the back of negative 7, positive 7. So I'm going to have x minus 30 equals to 0. You understand? Okay, here I'm going to have x squared plus into bracket 10 plus times minus, that will be what? Negative 3. X minus 30 equals to 0. You understand? Now I'm going to have x squared plus, now x multiplied by 10 will give us, that will give us 10x. So I'm going to have plus 10x, okay? Negative 3 multiplied by x, that is what? Negative 3x minus 30 equals to 0. You understand? Okay? Now I'm going to separate this fraction in, this equation into two. The first part will be the first two terms, and the second part, please pay attention. the second part will be the second two parts. Don't forget that there is negative here. Now, before I factorize, I want you to pay attention. If you want to separate the quadratic equation, the first part will be the first two terms, and the second part will be the second two parts. You understand? So the first two parts is x squared and plus 10x. You understand? So here, let us factorize. What is the common factor between x squared and 10x? The common factor is x. So I'm going to have x into bracket x plus 10. You understand? Now, what is the common factor between negative 3x and negative 30? The common factor is negative 3. So I'm going to have negative 3 into bracket x plus 10. This will be equals to 0. If you didn't understand how to factorize, or you are confused in this place, that means you are not part of our first, second, third class. You missed it. So you can watch that class by check the playlist on this channel. You see quadratic equation. You understand? So just try watching all the videos. You understand? You're going to understand how to deal with this step. When we get to this step, we just factorize the common factor in the first bracket. I got this, and the common factor in the second bracket. I got this. You understand? So here, I'm going to add the common factor together. You understand? The common factor in this bracket is x. The common factor in the second bracket is negative 3. So I'm going to have x plus minus 3. That will be what? X minus 3. So I'm going to set it to 0. X minus 3 equals to 0. And then x plus 10 equals to 0. You understand? Listen to the explanation again. The common factor in the first bracket is x. In the second bracket it is negative 3. So having gotten the common factor, I sum this factor together. X plus minus 3 is what? X minus 3. So I have x minus 3 equals to, I set it equals to 0 as a quadrant because I'm to determine the value of x. Okay, so x minus 3 equals to 0. Then for the second bracket, for this one, I took one of what I have in this bracket because the values in this bracket is the same as this. So I took one out of them. Here I have x plus 10 equals to 0. You understand? Okay, here the value of x will be equals to what? X equals to 3 or what? X equals to negative 10. You understand? So though that is the root of the quadratic equation. If you didn't get x equals to 3 or x equals to negative 10, you missed it. And let me quickly chip this in. Anytime you are dealing with quadratic equation that look like this, when you get to this step, make sure that what is here is the same as what is here. The content in your first bracket must be the same as the content in your second bracket. If you factorize and you didn't get the same, that means there is a problem or you made a mistake. You understand? So that is it. Now let's proceed to the second question. Okay, let me erase this now. Okay, for the second question, we are asked to find the value of x in this quadratic equation. 2x squared minus 3x minus 5. 2x squared minus 3x. 2x squared minus 3x minus 5 equals to 0. You understand? Okay? Now, how do we deal with this quadratic equation so that you not be confused? Let me erase this. How do we solve this quadratic equation? You can see that in the second quadratic equation that we are asked to solve, the value of a is not unity. You can see a is not 1. If a is 1, we can easily proceed by, as we did this one. But in this quadratic equation, a is not 1. So how do we go about this? Here, a is 2, b equals to negative 3, and c equals to what? Negative 5. Okay? Now, to solve this quadratic equation, the first step is that you have to take the product of a and c. A is the coefficient of the highest power of the unknown, and in every quadratic equation, the highest power of the unknown is always 2. You understand? So a is the coefficient of x squared because the unknown in this quadratic equation is what? X. You understand? Okay. Now take the product of the coefficient of x squared and the constant term. The coefficient of x squared is a, which is 2, and the constant term is what? Negative 5. So in this case, a and c, a multiplied by c equals to what? 2 multiplied by negative 5. That is equals to what? Negative 10. Do you understand? Okay. Having taken the product of the first term and the constant term, you have to think of two numbers such that the product of these two numbers must be equals to the product of A and C in your quadratic equation, and by the time you sum these two numbers together, you must get B, which is the second term in the quadratic equation. Let me take that again. Find two numbers, think of two numbers such that when you take their product, you must have negative 10. Because in this quadratic equation, the product of A and C is what? Negative 10. So you have to think of two numbers such that when you take their product, you must have negative 10. And when you take their sum, you must have what? B, which is what? Negative 3. What are those two numbers? Let me give you the time to think. Are you done? Now, write what you think. Write it somewhere, okay? What are the two numbers such that if I take their product, I'm going to have negative 10, and if I add them together, I'm going to have negative 3. Those two numbers are negative 5 and 2. Do you get it right? If you get it right, kudos to you, okay? Those two numbers are negative 5 and 2. You understand? Okay? Let us check. Minus 5 times 2, that is what? Negative 10. Correct. Minus 5 plus 2, that is what? Negative 3. Correct. Hence, the numbers in which their product and the sum is equals to negative 10 and negative 3 respectively is negative 5 and 2 and negative 5 plus 2. Do you understand? Okay. Now, the next step is that we are going to replace the second term in our quadratic equation by the sum of these two numbers. Just pay attention, okay? Here, the quadratic equation will become like this. 2x squared minus 3x minus 5 equals to 0. 2x squared, please pay attention, into bracket, I'm going to replace negative 3 by what? Negative 5 plus 2, you understand? Because negative 5 plus 2 will give me what? Negative 3. Do you understand? Now, I want you to pay attention here. See. Do you know the reason why I put positive in the front of this bracket? The reason is because positive doesn't have effect, you understand? Now, I cannot put this negative in the front, you understand? If I put it, it will have effect. That means that every content that will be in this bracket is multiplying the negative. So, we won't get the same answer. Do you understand? So, just open the bracket. Instead of negative 3 now, I'm going to replace negative 3 as what? Negative 5 and plus 2, you understand? So, I'm going to have negative 5 plus 2 into bracket x. Do you understand? That's it. Okay? Minus 5 equals to 0. So here I'm going to have 2x squared. Negative 5 times x, that is what? Negative 5x. Plus 2 times x, that is what? Plus 2x. Minus 5 equals to 0. Okay? Now, I'm going to separate this quadratic equation into two. Okay? The first part will be the first two parts. The first part will be this, and the second part will be this. Okay? Now, let us deal with this using the factorization method. The reason why we call this method the factorization method is because here we are going to factorize. So, if you are not versed with factorization, make sure you learn more on it. Now, what is the common factor between 2x squared minus 5x? The common factor is x. You understand? So, I'm going to have x into bracket 2x minus 5. Do you understand? Okay? Now, what is the common factor between plus 2x and negative 5? The common factor is 1. You understand? So, I'm going to have plus 1 into bracket 2x minus 5. Okay? Equals to 0. Now, the next step is that I'm going to take the term outside the bracket and sum them together. This and this. Okay? So, I'm going to have x plus 1 equals to 0. Do you understand? Now, I'm going to take one of this bracket and set it equals to 0 because I have the same contents now. Okay, so I'm going to have 2x minus 5 equals to 0. So here I'm going to have x equals to negative 1, and here I'm going to have 2x equals to 5, and x will be equals to what? X is equals to 2 over 5. X equals to, okay, 5 over 2, sorry, okay, 5 all over 2. You can see how simplified this, the question is. So that is how to solve quadratic equation using the factorization method. However, there are some quadratic equations that cannot be solved using the factorization method. You understand? Those ones you are going to solve using the completing the square, the formula method, or even the graphical method. Okay? So we are still coming there. Maybe we are going to do that in our next class. So please, I want to subscribe to this channel. Drop comments if you understand this video. let me know in the comment section. And if there is any need to you want to call my attention to, maybe you didn't understand at this particular point, let me know in the comment section. Okay, see you in the next class.